Somewhere near you, someone with half your strength, a fraction of your vision, and almost none of your promise is pulling ahead. Not because they are better, not because they deserve it, but because they have mastered the illusion of certainty. They speak with the rhythm of command, and people obey without questioning why. They move through spaces as if the air itself parts to let them pass. Their presence announces itself before their words ever do, and the world bends to their confidence. That confidence is a weapon, an armor, a crown, and crowds instinctively bow to it. And you stall. You bury yourself in thought, searching for flawless words that never escape your lips. You wait for a signal, for timing to align, for a feeling that will never come. You treat life like a stage rehearsal while others perform boldly on opening night. And so, while you stand on the sidelines, hesitant and overprepared, the undeserving claim the power, the opportunities, and the victories that should have been yours. Understand this. Certainty is not merely a personality trait. It is a weapon sharper than intelligence, stronger than preparation, heavier than reason itself. The world is not a fair judge. It does not crown the most talented or the most brilliant. It crowns the audacious, the unapologetic, the ones who dare to act as if the throne is already theirs. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago when he wrote that fortune favors the bold, not the hesitant. History confirms it. Power rarely falls into the hands of the most capable. It belongs to the most unshakably sure, those who impose their will as if it were already destiny. Brilliance without. Assertion is like fire locked inside. Glass, it glows but never burns. A hesitant genius will always kneel before a mediocre man who dares to command with confidence. What you are hearing right now is not a gentle whisper meant to soothe your insecurities. This is not crafted to motivate, comfort, or pat you on the back. It is designed to unsettle you, to break you open, to reshape you entirely, to dismantle the hesitation that has chained you, to silence the obedient servant that lives in your head, to awaken the ruler you've buried under years of conditioning. Because weakness was never your natural state, it was cultivated into you. It was drilled into you through repetition, through reward, through subtle punishments for daring to step out of line. From the first years of your life, you were taught that approval mattered more than truth. You were rewarded for obedience, for politeness, for waiting your turn like everyone else. You were praised for raising your hand, for asking permission, for staying quiet when you should have spoken. Slowly, without realizing, you were programmed to ask, "Is this okay?" instead of declaring, "This is how it will be." That timid voice inside you now, the one that trembles before judgment, that apologizes before it speaks, that craves acceptance like a starving animal, understand. That is not your real voice. That is not the true you. That is the conditioned servant, the obedient self sculpted by a society that fears individuality, that punishes defiance, that prefers tame men over dangerous ones. And unless you kill that voice completely, mercilessly, you will remain bound, bowing to lesser men who only surpassed you, because they dared to move when you hesitated. Understand this. Rulers do not beg to be heard. They do not wait to be understood. They move, and the world must adapt or be crushed beneath their pace. Their silence weighs heavier than the chatter of 100 lesser men, silencing laughter, muting whispers, making even arrogance fall quiet. Their stillness makes the room tense, as if the air itself senses it is being judged. Their presence rewrites the atmosphere, bending the posture of everyone nearby, making the confident straighten and the insecure shrink. They need not announce themselves because existence itself bends to them, like the earth yielding beneath the weight of a storm. Your transformation begins with inversion. When you feel the urge to shrink, expand until your shadow fills the room. When you want to explain, remain silent until the silence itself becomes pressure. When you feel the impulse to apologize, hold the stare instead, and let the discomfort burn through their need for dominance. Dangerous confidence is not born from readiness, it is born from defiance, from the refusal to let the weaker voice within you win. You must move in ways your former self would never dare. Walk faster, not frantically, but as though the ground is already yours. Stand taller, not stiff, but unshakable. Remove the nervous nods, the soft tone, the shrinking gestures that betray you as prey. Speak as though your words are decisions carved into stone, unchangeable. Final never as fragile suggestions tossed into the wind. Confidence is not a mood, it is an identity. A permanent cloak you must wear until it fuses with your skin. It is rebellion against the inner servant who still kneels. The voice that whispers to play small, to seek permission, to wait for kindness in a world that respects only power. If any thought, habit, or person makes you smaller, eliminate it without hesitation. If it causes you to falter, confront it until it breaks. If it weakens you, strip it away like rust from steel. Niceness, as the world defines it, is not a virtue, it is a leash disguised as praise. The nice man becomes a tool, useful only until he is discarded. A servant who mistakes gratitude for respect. Power does not belong to the nice. It belongs to the precise, the measured, the unflinching, the one who commands without asking, who walks into rooms and makes the air obey. You must slaughter the part of yourself that still begs for permission, the voice that waits for a nod, for applause, for someone else to grant you the right to exist loudly. You need no validation, no hand of approval, no crown handed down by another. What you need is the willingness to become feared not by strangers, not by enemies, but by the weaker version of yourself that clings to comfort. Once the servant within you is buried, the ruler rises from the grave. Do not mistake noise for strength. Barking dogs are easy to predict. Shouting men reveal their desperation with every word. Those who rush to fill silence with chatter expose their hunger to be accepted. The true danger is the one who does not need to prove himself, the figure who studies quietly, who waits with patience that unnerves, who makes others squirm until they expose their own weaknesses. In the courts of power, it was rarely the king's booming voice that ruled, but the silent figure in the corner, who spoke so rarely that when his words did fall, they struck with the finality of a verdict. Silence is control. The untrained believe respect is won through constant speech, but endless words bleed authority. Every extra syllable is a fracture in the armor. Speak less, and when you do, make each word sharpen steel. Strip away every softness. No filler, no stumbles, no disclaimers that betray submission, no maybe. No, I think. No, sorry. Those are the tongues of servants, of men who bow before they rise. Speak as though every utterance is a decree carved into stone. And when you are finished, let silence follow. That silence will press on the room, forcing others to wrestle with the weight of what you've just said. Few will ever dare to challenge it, because silence, when wielded with precision, feels heavier than any roar. People are not swayed by truth, they are swayed by conviction. History is littered with forgotten truths, but conviction builds empires. Speak slowly, deliberately, as though your words are carved into the bones of reality. Lower your tone until it carries weight. Strip away the tremors of nervous energy. Sound like someone who has already decided, as though the verdict has been written long before the question was ever asked. And watch how the world bends toward your certainty. Rulers are not loud. They are inevitable. Their presence makes resistance feel pointless. And when challenged, never defend, never explain, never justify. To argue is to confess doubt, to step onto the stage of the accuser and play by their script. Instead, dismiss with finality, redirect without effort, conclude without apology. The moment you refuse to debate, you project a reality that cannot be negotiated. That is how power is maintained, not by raising your voice, but by lowering the room into your gravity. But here is the brutal truth. Presence and speech are nothing if your emotions remain exposed. Many men master posture, tone, even charm, yet one insult reduces them to anger. One compliment turns them into desperate servants, and one silence makes them unravel. If others can push your feelings like buttons, you are not powerful, you are programmable. To be untouchable, you must win the hidden war, the one no one else can see, the battle within your own mind. You must become unreachable, not hollow, not robotic, but unshakable. You will feel the sting of insult, but you will not flinch. You will hear praise, but you will not kneel. You will endure silence, but you will not chase. Someone insults you? You do not defend, you watch, you record, you learn. Someone praises you? You do not melt, you dissect their motives and store them for later use. Someone ignores you? You do not beg for recognition, you turn colder, heavier, until their silence becomes their discomfort. Not yours, that is sovereignty, not in silencing others, but in mastering yourself so fully that no one else can move you. The Machiavellian mind does not seek to be understood, it understands itself, and that is enough. It does not hunger for affection, because affection is a chain disguised as kindness. It does not beg to be included, because inclusion is often just another form of control. It knows that the craving for validation is the simplest lever to pull, the easiest rope to tighten around a man's neck. Break that lever and you become ungovernable. You stop reacting like prey, and you begin calculating like a hunter. This is the essence of untouchable power. Rejection does not pierce you. It educates you. Every dismissal becomes a revelation. It tells you who underestimated your reach, who failed to recognize your depth, who revealed their blindness before you, and instead of bleeding from the wound, you sharpen it into a blade. You withdraw your presence, not as retreat, but as punishment. Let your absence gnaw at them. Let your silence press against their conscience, until the weight of what is missing haunts them more than your words ever could. You do not chase revenge, for revenge is a child's game, an indulgence of emotion. Instead, you wait. You build. You evolve. You sharpen in secret. And when you return, it is not with fire in your eyes, but with a presence so undeniable, so towering, that those who once dismissed you cannot even lift their gaze to meet yours. The moment you are no longer sculpted by the hands of others, but instead become the form they must shape themselves around. You cease to belong to anyone, not to their praise, not to their judgment, not to their affection. You belong only to yourself, and that is why you become unforgettable, not because you reached for them, but because you are now beyond their reach. You are unreachable, and therefore unforgettable. The weak chase understanding, pleading to be seen, to be validated, to be accepted. The strong radiate clarity, needing no interpreter, no permission, no applause. Legends are not etched into memory because they begged to be heard or wasted, breath explaining themselves. They are remembered because they moved through the world like storms, like mountains, like forces of nature that could not be reasoned with. Cold, consistent, merciless, in presence untouchable by doubt, immune to persuasion, unbending in will. So from this moment forward, you must walk as though the ground itself was laid for your stride. Step as though the earth carries your weight because it must. Speak as though your words are not opinions, but decrees final, immovable, unquestionable. Think as though nothing, no insult, no praise, no silence, could shift you from the throne of your own mind, because the truth is, they cannot move you unless you grant them the power to do so. Understand this. What I speak of is not self-help, not inspiration, not some fragile spark meant to fade when comfort returns. This is war. The battlefield is your posture, your words, your emotions, your very presence. And today you ceased being a bystander in that war. Today you sharpened into something else, not a victim, not a seeker, not even a dreamer. Today you became a weapon, and weapons do not ask to be understood. They dominate by existing,